I shouldn't be here. Technically, it's my party. The calendar on the wall says October 23rd. The expensive velvet cake sitting untouched on the marble island says, Happy birthday, YN. But the heavy, suffocating feeling in my chest says, I am nothing but a useless one, in a room full of people who are too rich to care. I pulled the sleeves of my oversized sweater down to my knuckles. I wasn't wearing a glittery dress like others. I wasn't wearing heels, too. I looked like I belonged in the background, which is exactly where Tian Jungkook liked to keep me. We grew up together. That's the lie I tell myself to sleep at night. The truth? My father was his father's driver. I was a charity case. And somewhere along the way, Jungkook one day realized he could do whatever he wanted to me, and I would never leave. The heavy steel door slid open. The music didn't stop, but the air in the room shifted. The king had arrived. Jungkook walked in, shaking rain off his black leather jacket. He looked devastating. Piercing eyes, ring on his lip, ink creeping up his hand, that jawline that could cut glass. But he wasn't alone, and my heart stopped. Then it shattered, wrapped under his arm. Giggling and wearing a dress that cost more than my entire life's tuition was her, the new one. I didn't even know her name yet, but I hated how perfect she looked next to him. Cook, you made it! One of his friends shouted, tossing him a beer. Jungkook caught it, his eyes scanning the room. For a split second, his dark gaze landed on me. I held my breath, waiting for a smile, a nod, a happy birthday, pretty. Nothing. He looked through me like I was a smudge on the windowpane. He turned his attention back to the girl, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh, a sound that grated on my very soul. I should have walked out. A girl with self-respect would have walked out, but I don't have one. So I just walked closer, like a moth flying straight into a blowtorch. Hey, Jungkook, I whispered, my voice trembling. He paused, looking over his shoulder. The girl looked at me, confused. Oh, babe, who is this? She asked, her voice syrupy sweet. She looked me up and down, noting my messy bun and cheap sweater. Is she... The housekeeping? The silence that followed was deafening. The entire room seemed to lean in. Jungkook looked at me. He saw the tears welling in my eyes. He saw the birthday cake behind me. He knew exactly what day it was, but he smirked. A cold, cruel tilt of his lips. Yeah, Jungkook said, his voice flat and emotionless. Something like that, double quotes, my stomach dropped to the floor. Something like that. Oh, well, that's convenient, the girl chirped, completely oblivious to the murder happening in my heart. I'm actually dying for a vodka cranberry. Heavy on the lime. She looked at me expectantly. I froze. I looked at Jungkook, pleading silently. Please, don't do this. Not today. Please, but he didn't blink. He just raised an eyebrow, his eyes devoid of warmth. You heard her, YN, he said, loud enough for the guys in the back to hear. Make her a drink. And make sure you get the ratios right this time. You know how clumsy you are. The humiliation washed over me like boiling water. My hands shook. Everyone was watching. The charitied king case, serving the king-queen. Jungkook, I choked out, pointing weakly at the cake. He took a step closer, towering over me. The smell of his expensive cologne mixed with rain and tobacco filled my nose. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear, intimate and terrifying. I don't care, he whispered, his voice like ice shards. You exist in this room because I allow it. Don't make me regret my choice. Pour the drink. I broke into tiny million pieces. I nodded, biting my lip until I tasted copper. Yes, master, I whispered. I turned my back on my birthday cake, walked to the bar, and picked up the vodka bottle. My reflection in the mirror looked exactly like what he said. I was pathetic. Utterly pathetic. The ice clinked against the glass. Clink, clink. It was the only sound I could hear over the pounding of my heart. I walked back towards the plush leather sofa where they sat. My hands were trembling so badly, the lime wedge was bobbing up and down in the red liquid. Every step felt like walking on knives. Jungkook was leaning back, legs spread, one arm draped over the back of the sofa behind the girl. He looked like a dark god on a throne. He was watching my hands, waiting for me to mess up. Here, I whispered, extending the glass. The girl, Mia, bitch, whatever her name is, I heard him call her, didn't take it immediately. She looked at the drink, then at my shaking hand, and smiled. A small, pitying smile. Thanks, sweetie, she said. She reached out. Her fingers brushed mine. Crash. I don't know if she let go too early, or if I let go too late. But the glass slipped. It didn't hit the floor. It hit me. It looked like she did that on purpose. Damn, how? Dai gasped as the ice-cold vodka and sticky cranberry juice splashed all over the front of my beige sweater. The glass shattered at my feet. The music seemed to stop. The room went dead silent. I stood there, red liquid soaking into my wool sweater like a fresh gunshot wound, dripping down my jeans. I felt cold. So cold, oh my god. Sayo squealed, checking her pristine dress. Jungkook. She almost got it on my Prada. I looked at Jungkook. Help me. My eyes begged him. Please, just for once, ask if I'm okay. Take my side. Jungkook slowly stood up. He looked at the shattered glass. Then he looked at the red stain on my chest. His jaw clenched. He didn't say anything first, then he let out a harsh, annoyed sigh. You really are useless, aren't you? He grabbed a napkin from the table. My heart jumped. In start making impossible scenario, was he going to wipe my sweater? He gently dabbed a tiny, invisible spot on Bimbo arm. I mean the Laya arm. Are you okay? He asked her, his voice dropping to a low, carrying rumble a tone he used to use for me when I scraped my knee as a kid. I'm fine, she pouted, clinging to his bicep. Oh, this piece of SH. But look at the mess. And the vibe is totally ruined. Jungkook turned to me. His eyes were black holes. Clean it up, YN, he commanded. Now, before it creates more mess, I dropped to my knees. I started picking up the shards of glass with my bare hands. My vision was blurry with hot tears. I cut my thumb on a jagged piece. A drop of real blood mixed with the cranberry juice on the floor. Wait, Bimbo said, her voice changing. She was looking past me. She walked over to the marble island. She was looking at the cake, the velvet cake with the single unlit candle. And I know she was gonna humiliate me more. Happy birthday, YN? She read out loud. I froze on the floor, glass in my hand. Laya turned around, eyes wide. Wait, it's her birthday. Jungkook, you didn't tell me it was the maid's birthday? The shame burned my skin. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. An awkward, high-pitched sound. Oh, this is awkward. We're partying and she's serving. She looked at Jungkook for an explanation. Jungkook walked over to the island. He looked at the cake. He looked at the frosting that spelled my name. He picked up the cake knife. For a second, I thought impossible again that he was going to cut me a slice. Maybe this was the redemption. Maybe he remembered the promise he made. He stared at the cake, bored. It's not her birthday, Jungkook said calmly. I looked up, shocked. Jungkook. It is. You know, it is. He looked me dead in the eye. Birthdays are for people who matter. Why, and then with a casual flick of his wrist, he shoved the cake box. It slid off the smooth marble counter. Splat. The cake landed upside down on the floor, right next to where I was kneeling. The happy birthday was smashed into a pile of red crumbs and white frosting. Jungkook said, void of emotion. Add that to the mess you need to clean up. I stayed there, on my knees. Maybe it's where I belong, on my knees. I was bleeding from my thumb, stained with juice, and broken by the man who used to be my entire world. The room felt heavy with the laughter of people who didn't even see me as human. Jungkook, that was mean, Laya said, though she didn't sound like she meant it. She was leaning against him, enjoying the show. She's fine, Jungkook muttered, reaching for a new drink. She's used to it. I'm not. The voice didn't come from me. It came from the doorway. The heavy sliding door had opened again. Standing there, dripping wet from the rain, but looking like a saint in a trench coat, was Taeyong. Taeyong was the only one in this circle who ever looked at me like I wasn't invisible. He was Jungkook's best friend, but they were polar opposites. Where Jungkook was shadow, Taeyong was light. Taeyong's eyes scanned the room. They landed on the smashed cake. Then they landed on me shaking on the floor, picking up glass with bleeding fingers. His face went pale. What the hell is this? The music died down. Taeyong walked over, ignoring everyone. He didn't look at Jungkook. He dropped to his knees right in front of me. Why, N? He whispered, his voice thick with genuine pain. He reached out, gently taking my hand, the one that was bleeding. Don't touch that. You're hurting yourself. I have to clean it, I sobbed, the first tear finally falling. He told me to clean it. Jungkook, who was standing there with a bored expression, though his hand was gripped tight around his glass, is this a joke to you? Taeyong snapped. It's her birthday, Jungkook. We all knew. I even bought her a gift. Jungkook's eyes darkened at the mention of a gift. A muscle in his jaw began to twitch. The villain was being challenged. She's my kin ward, Tae. My responsibility, Jungkook said, his voice dangerously low. Stay out of it. She's not a dog you train. Taeyong yelled, standing up and pulling me with him. I stumbled, leaning into Taeyong's warmth. She's bleeding, look at her. If you don't want her here, I'll take her. She's coming with me. The air in the room turned to ice. Jungkook put his drink down. The bored look was gone. It was replaced by something feral. Something possessive. He didn't want me, but he damn sure didn't want anyone else to have me. He stepped forward, his boots crunching on the glass I hadn't finished cleaning. He stopped inches from Taeyong, the two of them facing off. Let go of her, Jungkook hissed. No, Taeyong defied him. You don't get to treat her like trash and then claim ownership. Jungkook didn't look at Taeyong, he looked at me. His eyes were predatory. He saw me clinging to Taeyong's coat, seeking the comfort he refused to give. Why, N? Jungkook said, his voice a low, vibrating warning. Come here. Right now. I looked at Taeyong's kind eyes. Then I looked at Jungkook's cruel ones. My heart was a war zone. Don't go, why, N? Taeyong pleaded. I'll take you home. A real home? You don't have to go through all this shit. Jungkook stepped even closer, his breath hot against my face. He leaned in, his voice a lethal whisper that only I could hear. You leave this room with him, and I'll make sure your father loses everything. I own the roof over his your head, and I own the air in your lungs. Choose? The room was dead silent. My breath hitched. He was a monster. A beautiful, heartless monster. I looked at Taeyong, my heart breaking for the man who actually tried to save me. I slowly pulled my hand out of Taeyong's grip. I can't, I whispered. Jungkook smirked. He reached out, his hand wrapping firmly around the back of my neck, not a caress, but a grip. A claim. He looked at Taeyong with a look of pure triumph. See? Even when I bleed her dry, she still begs for my shadow. Then he turned to the room, raising his voice so everyone could hear. The show's over. Get her a towel. I'm tired of looking at the red stain and dirty floor. I stood there, held by the man who hated me, while the man who loved me watched in horror. Jungkook's Pav. I watched her from the sofa. She looked small, broken, a mess of red stains and shattered glass. Most people would feel guilt. Most people would look away. I couldn't look away. Every time I pushed her, every time I saw a tear track through the dust on her face, a sick, heavy satisfaction settled in my gut. It's not that I hated her. It's that I hated how much she mattered. Since we were kids, she was the only thing in my life that wasn't bought or sold. She was the only thing real, and because she was real, I had to see if I could break her. If she'd stay even when I was the devil himself. Then the door slid open. Taeyong. The moment he touched her, something in my chest didn't just burn, it detonated. Seeing his hero hands on what's mine, seeing her lean into his warmth like he was some kind of savior, absolutely not. I didn't care about the party anymore. I didn't care about Laia's annoying voice in my ear. I only cared about the way Wine was looking at him with hope. Hope is a dangerous thing, Wine, I thought, my jaw tightening until it ached. I didn't spend years stripping your pride away just to let some nice guy give it back to you in 5 minutes. I stepped forward, the sound of glass crunching under my boots, the only thing keeping me grounded. I wanted to wrap my hands around his throat, but more than that, I wanted to wrap my soul around hers until she couldn't see anyone else. She's mine, I screamed internally. Mine to break, mine to fix, mine to ruin. When I leaned into her ear, I could smell the vodka and the cheap vanilla perfume she always wore, the one I secretly loved but publicly mocked. You leave this room with him, and I'll make sure your father loses everything, I whispered. It was a lie. I never touched her father, but I knew her. I knew her no self-respect. Heart would bleed for anyone she loved. I used her goodness as a cage. I watched the light die in her eyes as she pulled away from Taeyong. That was the moment. That was the high. She chose the monster. She always would. Let him be her light. I'd rather she drown in my darkness than be happy in someone else's sun. POVY. The clock on the wall flickered. 3 a.m. Everyone was gone. Stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, my forehead pressed against the cold glass. The sky's crying just like my heart. I looked at my reflection. The red stain on my sweater had dried into a dark, ugly brown. I looked like a victim. I looked like a no one. I don't recognize myself anymore. Click. The sound of the electronic front door locking echoed through the hollow apartment. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I felt the air shift. I felt the heat of him before he even spoke. Jungkook's footsteps were slow, rhythmic, and terrifyingly calm. He wasn't rushing. He knew I had nowhere to go. He stopped directly behind me. He didn't touch me at first, but his shadow draped over mine on the glass, swallowing me whole. The party's over, YN, he whispered. His voice was a low, dark velvet that sent a shiver of pure dread down my spine. Why are you still crying? You should be happy. You're finally alone with me. Let me go, Jungkook. I choked out, my voice sounding thin and ragged. You've had your fun. You humiliated me. You made me crawl on the floor. You brought a new one here to rub on my face, to show me how little I matter. Just let me go. One sudden, blurred movement, he reached around and gripped my chin. His fingers were like iron. He forced my head back, so I had to look at him in the reflection of the dark window. His eyes were pitch black. No remorse. No regret. Just a flickering hungry fire. Taehyung was right about one thing, he murmured, his thumb tracing the line of my jaw with a terrifying gentleness. You're shaking. Like a little bird in a storm. Because I'm scared of you. I screamed, finally turning around and shoving his chest. I hit him, my fist thudding against his hard muscle. I hate you. I hate what you've turned into. You treated me like a servant. You treated me like useless, no one, nothing. Even on my birthday, Jungkook, he didn't move. He didn't even flinch. He let me hit him until my arms grew tired and I slumped against the glass, sobbing into my hands. Why? I gasped. If you hate me this much, why keep me here? Why not just kick me out? Why not just let me go? Jungkook stepped into my personal space, pinning me between his body and the window. He leaned down, his face inches from mine. The villain mask didn't just slip, it shattered, revealing the obsession underneath. You think I did all that because I hate you? He asked, a dark, twisted smile playing on his lips. You're so naive, YN. It's almost innocent. He grabbed my wrists, pinning them to the glass above my head. I brought her here to see if you'd get jealous. I made you serve the drinks to see if you'd finally snap and tell me you're mine. I smashed that cake because I couldn't stand the thought of you celebrating a year of life that wasn't completely dedicated to me. Breath hitched. He was insane. I hate that I can't breathe when you're not in the room, he hissed, his eyes scanning every inch of my terrified face. I hate that you looked at Taehyung for help. I hate that I have to break you every single day just to make sure you're still there. You're a monster, I whispered. I'm your monster, he corrected. He slid one hand down to my waist, pulling me so flush against him, I could feel the frantic thud of his heart. It was beating as fast as mine, and you're my masterpiece. Look at you. You're covered in the mess I made, and you're still standing here with me. You'll never leave. We both know it. He leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear, his voice a final soul-crushing promise. I didn't break you because I wanted you gone, Wynan. I broke you so you'd never be whole enough for anyone else to ever hold. I'd rather see you cry in my arms than smile in his. He pulled back just enough to look me in the eye, his grip tightening. Happy birthday, YN, you're finally exactly where you belong. In the dark, with me.